It doesn't exactly seem unreasonable to say that he was the one who actually did this crime. I would love to hear what all of you think about this case. Do you think Selinsky did it? Or do you think it was something else altogether? The internet is something that we use every single day, checking email, posting selfies, and watching funny videos. We use it as a means of education, entertainment, and escapism. You can make lifelong friends from a chat room, or find a new love interest from online dating. Truthfully, there is no shortage of things to do online, and no shortage of people to meet. Some good, and some not so good. Matthew Falder falls into the category of individuals so evil, you'd think that he was straight out of a horror movie. I will warn everyone here, what I am about to talk about is going to be heavily censored, and even then it will contain
I
very
just fucking died around 29 because I don't have the Mark II, I only have the ray
disturbing
gun.
material. I ask anyone who wishes not to hear discussions of self-harm, various forms of assault, or bullying to just close the video
And I had
now.
like 3 games die because
For
I'm getting
those who
29
have
dollars.
stayed, tread lightly as you are about to hear the story of Matthew Falder, the man with 70 faces. Matthew Falder, on the outside, was seen as friendly, outgoing, and the life of the party to his friends and co-workers. He was as well a gifted student and obtained both his master's and doctoral in seismic oceanography. But beneath the personality he had with the public, on the inside and behind a computer screen, he was labeled by the National Crime Agency as one of the most prolific and depraved offenders that they had ever encountered. Matthew's crime started back in 2009, where he would become close with his victim and through that obtain personal and intimate knowledge about them. After gaining this, he would completely change and begin blackmailing them. Not for money or personal favor.
What is what?
Instead,
What is
he
what?
aimed at using his victims as he saw fit. He would demand his victims to document themselves through both photo and video to carry out
Scary
very disturbing
videos
and disgusting acts on both themselves and others. Not fearing the pain or trauma that he inflicted on his victims, they were there purely for his entertainment. As time went on, the depravity and true horror of Matthew increased. His strategy that he used, where he would find a victim, gain their trust, and then use that against them, became more defined and almost second nature to him. The kinds of things that he subjected people to are things that I cannot talk about on YouTube. And truthfully, I wouldn't want to mention it even if I could. Some of the more tamer things Matthew forced people to do were film themselves licking public toilet seats, punching a random person in public, eating dog food, and having people shave their own heads. The abuse continued more and more, and there seemed to be no end of Matthew's rampage. On several occasions, victims of Matthew's would beg and plead with him to stop the harassment and leave them alone. He would of course ignore these and continue the bullying, leading several of his victims to hurt themselves, and some to attempt things that went even further, if you catch my drift. This cycle of abuse continued dozens of more times. Each time he would do the same thing, charm someone into trusting him, and then letting the monster out. For 8 years, he was able to stay hidden behind various deep web forum boards, multiple different accounts and profiles, as well as using heavily encrypted email addresses. In fact, the amount of profiles and accounts that Matthew had numbered well over 70. The thing that led to Matthew being caught, though, was that he would post the photos and videos of his victims to various websites on the deep web for others to see. In 2015, the NCA was monitoring several of these websites where they came across horrifying material all coming from the same user, 666 Devil. Looking at his posting content, they could tell that whoever this was a truly disturbed person who needed
Why
to
can't I
be
get a
caught.
nuke?
That, however, proved trickier than originally thought. So much so that a task force was created that involved GCHQ,
Look at this. Where are my
US Homeland
drops?
Security, Europol, Australian Federal Police, New Zealand Police, and Israel Police.
Israel
Operation
police.
was one of the largest in its scale during that
Boom,
time.
freak bags!
Matthew continued his evil acts on helpless
Come get
victims
some freak
who were essentially
bags.
being controlled by someone they had never met. After years of investigation
Yes!
and sifting
Yes!
through some of
Yes!
the darkest content online, authorities were finally able to identify Matthew. And on
gonna
June
rip some
21st,
shit up with this.
2017, he was arrested at his work. When he was being read a list of his
Oh,
offenses,
yeah,
Matthew
those meat
remarked that it
sacks are
sounded
going
like a
down.
rap sheet from hell. Once he was arrested, he was later
Sorry,
taken to
Smell
Birmingham
Hound.
Chronicle,
You gotta be
where he was
put
read his
down.
full list of offenses. The total amount of victims numbered over 50. The number of offenses maxed out at a staggering 188 separate offenses, and it took over 30 minutes to read each charge out. Matthew ended up pleading guilty to 51 of those charges. When more information came out about the victims, it was learned
Yes.
that the youngest was aged only 14, and several of them came forward to state that they would
love
never
bossa
fully recover
nova.
from the damage that Matthew inflicted on them. On October 16, 2017, Matthew Falder pled guilty to 130. Today's video is sponsored by Likewise. Now, if you are anything like me, you have found yourself once, or twice, or every single time you sit down to watch TV, finding yourself spending the next 30 minutes attempting to find something to watch, as your dinner slowly sits next to you, quickly becoming cold, and then you're there, hungry, frustrated, and ultimately just sighing as you replay Criminal Minds for the 38th time. Well, this is where Likewise comes in to spare you from ever having to experience that again. Likewise works by giving you personal recommendations to whatever movies, shows, podcasts, or even books that you enjoy. Simply pick a few movies that you have enjoyed in the past, and then Likewise gets to work by showing you other movies that you would enjoy. Coming from someone who has literally gotten so frustrated at the lack of seemingly
that's
anything
not bad.
good on the various streaming services,
not
it
bad.
really is a breath of fresh air to have recommendations that actually work. And not only do they work, but they actually come from people who have seen the show or movie and given their honest feedback. The Likewise app also allows you to save all of your favorites so you can come back to them later. And on top of that, Likewise gives you daily recommendations so you don't have to worry about running out of things to watch anytime soon. To add the cherry on top, Likewise is 100% free. So, head on over to Likewise today and start upgrading your streaming experience with movies and shows that you will actually enjoy. Spring break is a time that many of us have fond memories of.
Meat bag
For
went
most
down
of
like a
us,
bag of
it's a
ammo.
glorious week of no parents, no curfews, and no supervision. It's the first taste of freedom and independence, with the thrill of finishing high school behind us and the excitement of moving on to the next chapter in our lives. Spring break is where we find ourselves in that sweet spot of life, where we feel invincible. Mark Kilroy was no different when, in 1989, he and several of his friends, Bill Huddleston, Bradley Moore, and Brent Martin, made their way to South Padre Island, a hotspot for many spring breakers. The small area is where the southern tip of Texas meets the Gulf of Mexico.
That's right.
As Mark and his friends spent their break drinking, partying, and meeting girls, things seem to be going normal in terms of the wild nature that spring break is known for. However, for Mark and his friends, something would soon happen that would make the area go from party central to a ghost town in a matter of days. The incident occurred on March 14, 1989, when the group of Mark,
Four-legged freak
Bill,
sacks.
Bradley,
Just
and
more
Brent
shit to
spent
blow
the
up.
day at Matamoros. They had parked their car on the other side of the bridge and, like thousands of other tourists, had made their way from the so-called American side to the Mexican side for the festivities. The area was flooded with over 15,000 people that night, and the bars and restaurants in that area
Go
were
sniff
full
some
to the
freak
brim of
bag ass,
tourists
meat
all
hole.
looking to enjoy the lax drinking laws in Mexico. As the night went on, the group
More
would
gun
bar hop and
juice,
chatted
kick
with a group of
ass.
women from the University of Kansas. The night began to end around
Come on.
2
What
a.m.
in the
when
world is a
group
root
decided
beer
to make their way
shelf?
back
Fuck.
to Brownsville,
Oh,
where
okay.
they had parked their car. However, due
Really?
to the large number of people all making their way back across
Come
the
on,
bridge,
dude,
it
it's
became
not-
very difficult for Mark and his friends to stick together. Not shockingly, they got separated, but were able to break into groups of two. Mark and Bill stuck to the side of the street, while Bradley and Brent were somewhere in the middle. It was said that Bradley and Brent were the first to cross the bridge and started hanging out around the car. At the same time, Mark and Bill were trying to navigate the crowd. Bill
Let's
told Mark that
dance,
he needed to use the
meatbags.
restroom and ran into an alley to relieve himself. In the short time that it took for Bill to return to the street, Mark was nowhere to be seen. Bill, assuming Mark had simply went on ahead without him, continued following the crowd and eventually made his way across the bridge. When Bill regrouped with Bradley and Brent, they were surprised that Mark was nowhere to be found. They waited around for him as they had assumed that he had gotten stuck in the slow-moving crowd. But after a while of waiting, they decided to go back to the hotel and figured Mark had simply gone home with someone else that night. Yet when Bill, Bradley, and Brent awoke the next morning and saw no signs of Mark, concern began to grow. And by the afternoon, with still no idea where he could be, that concern grew into panic, and the group alerted police of Mark's disappearance. At the time, police figured it was simply just another college student that had gotten too drunk and was passed out somewhere on the beach. But when no sign of Mark would surface even days later, the whispers of a few concerned friends would quickly grow into having national spotlight aimed directly at finding those responsible. What began as a routine search for a missing person at spring break quickly turned into politicians from both the United States and Mexico working together to find Mark Kilroy. Mark's parents flew in to Matamoros to aid in searching for their son and offered a $15,000 reward for his
Kick
return.
ass.
What hindered the investigation from the start was the overall statistic of missing persons in that area. In the first 3 months alone, in 1989, Mark was one of 60 other people who had been reported as missing. With Mark being an American, it was highly probable to authorities that he had been robbed and that foul play could have followed. The levels of drug-related violence were very high in that area, and seeing that Mark was clearly a tourist, it made him a very easy target. Although both the Mexican and U.S. authorities were working together to solve the case, little progress was being made. It got so bad that Mark's friends, Bill, Bradley, and Brent, were put under hypnosis to see if they could jog a memory from the night of the disappearance. And surprisingly, Bradley, while under hypnosis, recalled that he saw a man talking to Mark shortly before he disappeared. Bradley went on to
See you all
describe
in
a
hell.
Hispanic man with a scar across his face. He also recalled that the stranger asked Mark, "Hey, don't I know you from somewhere?" Even with this, little progress was made in identifying any suspect, and Mark's friends all admitted that they couldn't recall the exact time Mark went missing, as they were all intoxicated.
Hoorah, maggot bags.
Police continued searching the area and assumed that Mark had been killed and dumped somewhere, since in the following days since Mark's disappearance, there had been no ransom made. Even though the situation looked grim, Mark's friends and family refused to give up on the search. Mark's story was also featured on America's Most Wanted in an attempt to stir up some leads, and while some were brought forward, none of them panned out, and police quickly found themselves
Again, I'll
going in
bite your back,
circles.
freak sack.
After all, they were looking for someone who vanished in a crowd of thousands of people. I have used this saying before, but I feel it fits here more than any other time. But finding an American tourist while on spring break with over 15,000 American tourists doing the exact same thing
Screw you.
is essentially like finding a needle in a stack of needles. Yet, hope seemed to come from an incredibly unlikely source that police had no idea would connect back to the missing American. It happened on April 1st, 1989, when police witnessed a car speed through a
Yeah,
roadblock
that's
and go
right.
towards the direction of Matamoros. Police followed the car from a distance and saw that it headed towards a ranch, and after about 30 minutes the car then left, speeding away. After more surveillance of the car and the area, police were able to identify the driver of the
those
car
don't sound
as
like freak
Serafin
bags.
Hernandez Garcia. On April 9th, 1989, after several days of surveillance, police arrested Serafin
thought I
as
told
well
you to
as several
stay.
others at the ranch. Those arrested included known cult members Davis Serena Valdez and Sergio Martinez. After the arrest, everyone was individually interrogated, and that was when Serafin dropped a bombshell that nobody was expecting. He confessed that numerous people had been killed at the ranch, with several of them being sacrificed, and that one of them was
I wish I could
Mark
meet the
Kilroy.
chick who sang that jingle.
This was backed up by the caretaker of the ranch, Domingo Reyes, who admitted seeing Mark and that he had been held in one of the outdoor sheds. Armed with this knowledge, police increased the pressure on Serafin and demanded to know more. Serafin eventually told police that the abduction and killing of Mark had been ordered by Adolfo Constanzo, a violent cult leader who was also running a drug gang. According to Serafin, Adolfo ordered him to find a white male or gringo to sacrifice, as he believed that it would grant both himself and his followers blessings in the form of safety from rival gangs and
Lying
police.
freak
As
bits.
Serafin continued
Kick
telling his
ass.
story, he recounted the night of Mark's abduction. He stated that he had led Mark to an alley, and once there, he and two other men forced Mark into the back
See
of the
you all
van
in
and sped
hell.
off. The van stopped a few blocks away, and Mark actually broke free and attempted fleeing. He was intercepted by more gang members following behind with another car.
What?
And at some point, forced him back into the back of the van. This led Mark to then being restrained. They took the van outside of city limits and into an industrial area. The following day, Adolfo showed up and examined him, seeing that he was a subject that they were looking for. They took him to the ranch, and throughout the rest of the day, Mark was continuously assaulted until that night when he was taken to the outskirts of the ranch and forced to get on his knees. At that moment, with his hands and face wrapped in thick duct tape, Mark pleaded with his abductors to let him go. And while others sat in silence, listening to the young man cry for help, Adolfo grabbed a machete and struck the back of Mark's neck with it, followed by repeated blows to the back of his head. Mark was then buried, but not before cult members, ordered by Adolfo, removed his brain and had several of his limbs cut off.
Time to kill.
Shocked by this, the police demanded to be taken to where they buried Mark. Serafin agreed and took them
Crazy.
to the ranch. The spot where Mark was buried was easy to spot since there were several pieces of wire sticking from the ground. Serafin told police this was to keep the bones intact so that they could wear them as a means of protection.
Points.
Having the
Who's
truth
keeping
now
score?
directly in front of them and realizing that as evil and twisted as Serafin's story was, it was all true. Shortly after the discovery of Mark's body, police from both Mexico and the United States went hard on the suspects, including Serafin and the other gang members. This included broadcasting them to over 250 international journalists and showing how each cult member had tattoos and scars all over their body. The authorities knew that
hands
they
off
had
me,
to go at this
bag-brain.
entire crime very hard, due to it, one, being an American tourist who was murdered in another
zombie. I
country,
ain't nobody's
and two,
meat
due
snack.
to the violent and graphic way Mark Kilroy met his end. This case actually got so big that the then President of the United States, George H.W. Bush, met with Mark's parents. The green light was on for Adolfo. Mexican authorities went in hard on the entire cult. They burned down the entire ranch and had it recorded on national television, knowing that this would
Lying
anger
freak
Adolfo
bits.
and hopefully
Kick
push him
ass.
out of hiding. And the trick did work in certain ways. Adolfo was said to have exploded in a fit of rage after seeing the ranch torched to the
Please.
ground. Police didn't stop there and went after every cult
Yes.
member and their family as well, arresting numerous family members, with some of them only being guilty
Son
of
of
being
a
related
bitch.
to a cult member. Adolfo's mother, who lived in Miami, had her house watched 24/7 in the following weeks. Police finally got their big break from the countless hours of surveillance when on May 6, 1989, while searching around
Is this all the devil's got to throw at us?
Back to Adolfo, police saw a man buying groceries and paying for them with U.S. currency. They followed him back to an apartment,
Gun juice
and after
refill,
deducing
just
that
what I
it was
needed.
one of Adolfo's trusted associates, a man by the name of DeLeon. As they prepared the raid on the apartment, Adolfo saw the police and immediately opened fire on them. Adolfo also threw money out of a window to get people to get in the line of fire and force police to stop shooting. After a 30-minute firefight, Adolfo was out of ammunition and knew that he was cornered. That was when he ordered DeLeon to shoot him because he wasn't going to get arrested for what he did. DeLeon was said to have hesitated at first, but then, after being demanded by Adolfo and told that if he didn't, he would suffer in the afterlife, DeLeon opened fire on Adolfo, and a few seconds later, he was dead. When police stormed the apartment, they found it filled with smoke, as Adolfo was attempting to burn the money that he had, and once the literal smoke had cleared, they found the lifeless body of the man many claimed to be one of the most evil men in Mexico. The crimes of Adolfo Constanzo were the inspiration for the 2007 horror film Borderland, where in the film, 3 college grads from Texas go to Mexico for
More gun
vacation
juice,
and find
kick
themselves
ass.
wrapped up in a cult-like gang that goes on to make the lives of everyone around them a nightmare. While not being a carbon copy or retelling of the crimes that occurred with Adolfo, it shows how big the dark legacy of the man that many in his gang saw as a god could go. Even to this day, the name Adolfo Constanzo is not talked about in certain parts of Mexico due to the very nature of what happened in 1989.
See you all in hell!
There has often been a debate on whether a person is born bad. This has been a popular topic amongst those in true crime for years, and looking back on certain individuals who committed heinous acts even from an early age and did nothing but increase the violence as they got older. It makes me wonder if some people are simply born to be evil.
Kaboom!
As criminal justice has expanded its knowledge, there have been beneficial things that have come from that. Understanding a criminal's behavior, or notable triggers for them, and how they as children started with minor offenses and worked their way up to more serious crimes. There have been studies on if people who do such things at such a young age are the product of a serious head injury or an unstable home life. Yet there have been others who are seemingly brought up in a healthy environment and still choose to do acts of evil. The entire reason I am even bringing this up is due to the person I am about to discuss. That man is Werner Niesek, and is seen by many as the most dangerous man in Austrian history. Werner Niesek was born in 1946 in Salzburg, Austria, and from a young age was known to have had a bad temper, as well as not being afraid to use physical violence on those close to him. Werner started showing these signs by stealing, skipping school, running away from home, and bullying others. For much of his childhood, he was a problem for his mother, who was raising him by herself. Werner had never met his real father and only knew his mother as the only family that he ever had, which may explain why, when she told him that he needed to move out and find his own place, that he lashed out, and instead of simply screaming and slamming doors, he instead grabbed a knife and stabbed her in a violent outburst.
This is all
After
me now.
this,
Holy shit.
The devil's dogs.
Yes.
No match for the U.S. Marines. Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
See you all in hell. See you all in hell.
Oh shit. Should be around in.
Flying freak bits. Kick ass.
Alright. I can use alchemy next turn. Okay.
Boom, meat sacks.
Oh, I'm on a new cycle now. Okay. Oh my fucking god, okay. I don't know how. Jesus. Ya Allah.
Points. Who's keeping score?
Oh, let's go. I got
More
extremely
gun
lucky.
juice. Kick ass. Ka-fucking boom, freak bags.
Whew. Alright. Gonna turn on the trap. Instead of insta kill? That would be Pog if I get that.
See you all in hell. Flying freak bits. Kick ass. No dice, freak sacks. You lose.
Fuck off. I don't care if it's nice. Oh, nice. That's what I like.
Time to
I might have
kill.
despawned, but this is skills.
You don't fuck with a Marine.
Yeah, right away.
Boom, meat sacks.
Ought to be around in. I'm gonna make sure I clear
Flying
everything
freak
up.
bits.
Okay.
Kick ass.
Oh, I should be last.
Boom, meat sacks.
Alright. This is about to be it. As long as nothing fucking stupid happens. This is it. Oh my god. Sub 30 maybe? Inshallah. Ya
Here,
Rabb baqى.
puppy. Got something for you. Back Back to hell with you! Play dead, bitch!
Oh my god. Let's go. Sub 30. Yes, sir. Oh my god. 2940. 2940. Oh my. How many? I've spent like 12 hours in the past 24 hours. Kind of a no life. Let's go, dude. Thanks, cake. Oh wow. God, I don't even know what my times look like. Dude, this game is fucking insane, I'll be honest. This is insane. This was pretty insane. Alright, I'm gonna splice this.